All right. Well, we are here again. Oh, we're not on final thoughts, are we? Let's change that. So we are here at the chamber. I'm at the chamber office anyway, here in Fife. My name is Laura Butterfield, and I'm the president and CEO of the Fife Milton Edgewood Chamber of Commerce. And we are continuing our candidate interviews today, and today we are thankful to have Sarah Rumbaugh, who is running for Pierce County Council, position 2. And thank you for being with us today, Sarah. And if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell everyone about you and why you decided to run for office.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me here today, Laura. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to your audience about running for Pierce County Council District 2. Again, my name is Sarah Rumbaugh. I live here in District 2 in Northeast Tacoma, sort of by Dash Point, Browns Point, Browns Point. And I decided to run for office. I'm a small business owner, and I work with nonprofits to raise money. And I have a background in planning. I was a city planner as well. And I decided to run because I felt that the voices of many in our community just weren't being heard by our county council. And I wanted to take the experience I have in city planning as well as in nonprofits to our county council to make a difference for more people, and to bring the issues of homelessness, affordable housing, behavioral mental health, and family wage jobs to the forefront of our discussion on the county council.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you. Let's get right into it here, and let's start talking about some of the issues. And I'd like to start by talking about Fife, Milton, and Edgewood. That's the chamber service area, and I want to try to keep our focus on the Fife, Milton, Edgewood area, and that's includes your area also in your district, as well as the Port of Tacoma. But what do you see as some of the issues that may be coming to the forefront for the Fife, Milton, Edgewood area, and how would you address those?
Well, first off, I've spent a lot of time in Fife, Milton, and Edgewood since I live in Northeast Tacoma, and that is just right across the freeway from where I live. And the Port of Tacoma is in my backyard. I can walk outside and it's right there. So what's happening in your neighborhood impacts my neighborhood. And, I think that the issues that you have to do with what's going to happen with the next wave of jobs. Like, I know that you have a lot of warehouses located in some parts of the area, and as the port transitions its type of work, what will happen to Fife as far as that? Milton and Edgewood I kind of feel like these suburban kind of neighborhoods that a lot of people live in, that have a suburban kind of feel, but also very rural. So they have different issues that they're concerned about. But one of the issues I hear about over and over again when I talk to people and live in your community are two things. One is affordable housing, and the other one I hear about all the time is traffic. And the lack of planning on the county council's side to make sure that when we are doing development, how is it going to impact people who live there? And I think that there needs to be more decisions on what's going to help with the future of your community. I only see you adding more housing and more jobs. I don't see it changing. I mean, you're located in such a great place right off of I-5, and it's such a beautiful place. And I mean, I just love where what it looks like. It's got this rural feel, but it's also got a city feel. And I think people live there because they like that. They like that they can get outside of the city and immediately be in what feels like country. And so I want to make sure people can always have that amenity, and that means that we have to kind of look at what's the next route for traffic through your community. Really, it's about how are people going to move around, and how are we going to still allow the traffic that needs to get to the port to get there, but not be infringed by people who are trying to get to work or get around as well in the community.
Right. Thank you. And we'll get into traffic a little bit deeper in a few minutes. But let's move on to the Port of Tacoma. It's part of your service area as well. We're right at the foot the entrance to the Port of Tacoma, and we the jobs there are um, jobs that our residents have, and so it's a very important area for this community as well. So, what are the issues related to the Port of Tacoma that you can make a difference on the city council or on the county council? Sorry.
That's okay. So, where you're located is really significant because a lot of what the Port of Tacoma, is doing is moving cargo, and you provide a lot of that area for that cargo. And so I think it's really important to think about what the job of Port of Tacoma is. And the Port of Tacoma is the economic engine for our county, and they employ thousands of people. And I think those jobs are really important. And many of those jobs are family wage jobs where people are earning money so that they can actually afford to live in Pierce County. Because a lot of people who live in Pierce County can't actually afford to live here because of the cost of housing. And so I want to make sure that we are consistently thinking about how do we keep the jobs that we need to keep at the Port of Tacoma, but also realize that we are transitioning, that things are not going to stay the same way, that we are dependent on a lot of fossil fuel. And I'm not sure I know that the port is looking at green jobs and what that means. And so I think as a community and the county, it's their responsibility to be thinking about what does that look like, and make sure we're having conversations before we get to a point where we have an emergency where we're suddenly having to decide, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I'm also worried about the health of the workers there and making sure that they are taken care of, and that things that happen in and around the Port of Tacoma aren't implicating the health of workers at the port. So I think those things, and also just, again, the issue of transportation and traffic, making sure that the trucks can get to the port. Since I live in Northeast Tacoma, I have seen the trucks line up on the side of the highway, and it's dangerous because it's not just soccer moms driving into Tacoma, it's also teenagers. And so we need to worry about traffic safety, making sure that the roads are safe. We also have an issue with pedestrians moving throughout that area. And we need to be thinking about, the Port of Tacoma is not going to stop having big trucks. How do we still allow people to move? So we need to make sure that we have, are providing sidewalks and easy ways for people to cross the major, cross 509, which is actually happening, which I can't believe I'm saying it happens, but yeah.
Okay, well, that is a great segue into our transportation subject. Let's get into that a little bit deeper. You mentioned that you didn't think that previous county councils have done enough in planning for the future in regards to traffic. What type of things what type of projects would you focus on? And also relating to transportation, 167,509 is coming. It's in the works. And how would you support that project? Do you support that project?
Well, first off, yeah, it's a great project, and I have to give Senator Zeiger, who's my opponent, some credit for being a part of making sure that happens. I'm also going to give Connie Lattenberg on the county council a lot of credit because she made sure that happened as well. So we know it takes a lot of people on both sides of the aisle to make things happen, and I'm glad that this is going to help our community because we are handling the brunt of most of the traffic that goes into the port. It comes through our neighborhoods. And, we can't talk about transportation and moving transportation in trucks, and most of this is cargo, to the port and out of the port. We can't talk about that without talking about public transportation. And I think that is the fundamental difference between me and my opponent, is that I believe we haven't done enough for public transportation. If you live in my neighborhood, the only way in to downtown Tacoma is on one bus a day that goes to Federal Way and then somehow makes it to downtown Tacoma. That is not viable for people. There's no fast bus that just goes from Northeast Tacoma to downtown Tacoma. And I think that's one of the issues, is that if the only way people are able to get to the port is by car, then you're adding car traffic plus truck traffic. And we're not doing anything to change the pattern and the usage that we already have. I mean, all it's doing is moving to Highway 167. It's not changing anything. So we need to think about how we connect what we already have for public transportation to more public transportation. And, public transportation is not just going to be buses. We are going to eventually get a light rail. And that will be fabulous for our neighborhood, but we need to figure out how we connect, and we need to be thinking ahead of time for what that looks like. And I think that's the kind of discussion we have to have. We don't have the funding right now to pay for this. They tried to pass two different, propositions that did not pass, which is unfortunate, because if you're a business person, you want to make sure people can get around and that they aren't, hindered by traffic that keeps you lined up on 509. And so, because of the port, and the only way into town from some of our neighborhoods is either I-5 or 509, of course, or Pacific Highway, which also gets backed up. So you want to be thinking about, what are some other options for getting people into Tacoma if that's where they're going to? You also alluded earlier when we were talking about being a thoroughfare for people to cut through to get to where they're going. So they might be going to, say, University Place or maybe to Lakewood, and they drive through our neighborhoods to get there. We need to figure out, how do we get people to get back on those main roads by making sure that people aren't all in their single occupancy vehicles. And that's by having more public transportation. So at some point, our county council is going to have a discussion about funding for public transportation. And what does that look like? Because we are missing those dollars in our county to make these improvements we need to make for the future and to bring more jobs here.
Mm-hmm. So expanding Pierce Transit, ensuring that Sound Transit comes here. I mean, it is coming, but
well, we also
into
yeah.
the communities as well.
And we're not really talking about the elephant in the room, which is the fact that we know by 2050 we will have at least 118,000 more people living in Pierce County. So we know the people are coming. We can't deny that. We have a study that goes out to 2050 that tells us that. So we need to be upfront with people about that coming, and how do we plan for that? And that's why we're where we are today, because we haven't done the planning we should be doing. And as a city planner, that's something I'm familiar with, is planning ahead to make sure we're ready for tomorrow.
Okay, great. Well, I want to shift subjects a little bit and talk about the business recovery, jobs, and then we'll get into workforce development. But let's talk a little bit about business recovery. With COVID, it's been especially hard on the small businesses, and some of them are still trying to recover. Some of them won't recover. What are some steps that you can take at the county council level to help alleviate some of those issues for businesses? Now, I do have to say that I feel like Pierce County has done a fantastic job of providing some resources to businesses, through the CARES Act and other resources. But are there other things that you think the county council could do to support businesses right now?
Well, I think that I'm going to give you a shout out too and say that I think that the county council, I know for sure Marty Campbell had done a really good job of making sure that his district, which is next to ours, was really got the services that they needed in their business community and tried to help as many small businesses as they could. And I know that money came from the CARES Act, that money disappears December 31st. And I think without more stimulus from the federal government and having the relationships that I have with electeds that are in our district, not just like on the federal level, I think I have those relationships to help us get the funding that we need to help small business. I am a small business owner. I understand what it's like to have lost business during this downturn. I know, though, that we're resilient and we're going to come back, but it's going to look different. And I want to provide, and the other problem for business right now is the inability to necessarily always be in person. And some models work great to go online, but other businesses don't work that way. And so we need to find ways to provide other opportunities to these businesses to be able to get customers and or to connect with other businesses that provide them more business. And one of the things I thought about was an online market, kind of where possibly small businesses could all be located so they all can like maybe we have like an online marketplace once a week, or I don't know how that would look, but it's a place where these small businesses can get together, and they're not all selling a good. A lot of them are like my business where you're fundraising. So you're selling yourself to someone else, the job that you do to help them. And so how do those people get that business if they're not able to do the networking that you normally do? So finding another way to network with other businesses so that you can share your experience with them. A lot of small businesses start out as home occupations, and we need to be finding a way virtually for them to get the business that they need to get, that they used to get when they could be in person with people. For instance, going to your chamber events, right? That was a way for them to network. And that's what chambers do great, is provide business an opportunity to be business to business networking. So we just need to take that to the next level. And I think the county could be helpful with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it has been very challenging for us to figure out how we do business here at the chamber. We've had to pivot and think outside the box and become innovative in what we do as well. So yeah, it's definitely interesting times. Let's move on and talk now about workforce development. As I mentioned a little bit earlier to you, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart and the chamber here. We have a program that we work on with in partnership with the 5 school district, and we put on a STEAM Career Day. We were not able to do it this year, but it's a STEAM Career Day, bringing students, 8th grade students, and connecting them with businesses. And getting them in early to see what some of the different careers are that they, before they make their choices in high school, they're able to see some of the options that are available right here in our own backyard. So, what type of things as far as workforce development goes, do you feel the county, I keep saying city, county council can do to further that work?
Well, you mentioned that county council member Pam Roach had given you a small portion of money to help with your workforce development. And I think that that's fabulous. I think the first thing we do is try to get you more money. And the way you described your program is, providing, possibly high school students an opportunity to have apprenticeships at different businesses. But when I was going to high school, you did that work. The vocational work was actually at the high school, where you got to experience those different types of jobs that, a lot of kids don't grow up with somebody who has a job like that. So that they may be working several different types of jobs. And so kids don't get the experience of what there is out there to choose from. And I don't think every kid is a college-bound kid. And I think that that's okay. I think there's a lot of great careers out there that can happen from apprenticeships. And I know that Bates Technical College and a lot of other, community colleges do programs that provide apprenticeships for different occupations. I'm thinking of some of the more union type jobs, but those are good paying jobs. They're careers that provide upward mobility. And I think anytime we can try to connect high school students with jobs that they see they could have a career with is a positive. I'd like to know what you would do, Laura, with more money for your workforce development program.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that I would like to expand our current program because like I said, we started out with the 8th grade. And now we want to include the 11th grade and do something for the 11th grade to kind of touch base with them again because we gave them the first introduction to the businesses, the business community in 8th grade, and like to touch back with them in the 11th grade, and maybe start the connections with the businesses so they can start moving in those directions. So expanding it from there in the school system, and I'd also like to do something more in the college and the CTE.
Can I ask you a question about your district? How many kids graduate from high school? And based on that, do you think your program could keep kids in school longer?
I'm not sure. I think that Fife actually has pretty good numbers. I don't know off the top of my head what they are, but yeah, I think that these programs could definitely keep them in school longer. And I have to hand it to the Fife School District. They have been innovative in creating programs and college and the VOTEC area. They're actually in the process of building a STEAM Innovation Center, which will be hands-on teaching students how about the different jobs and giving them that real-world training. So it's exciting to see, and they're partnering with a lot of the local businesses and trying to get as much training as far as the jobs that are located here in our area. So the school is doing a good job, I think, at providing some opportunities there.
Sorry that I started interviewing you. So
sorry. Okay, so let's. Yeah, I could talk about workforce development all day. That's a great subject.
Well, I think it's great that you're so excited about it because I think that our youth today, there's a group of them, and I've talked about this during my campaign, that are deciding not to go to college, and some of them are not going to high school because the online model just doesn't work for them. And some of them may have learning disabilities, and that's why it's very difficult to do online. Some of them it's economic because they don't have a computer and they don't have internet. That is true for some places in our county. So I think this, anything that will provide another path for success in finding a job is really important. And so if you're doing that kind of work, I think that that's great. Connecting kids to business and finding out what that looks like and thinking ahead to the future is a good thing for kids. And they don't always get that at home. So I appreciate you for reaching out like that as part of your community.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, let's shift gears a little bit. And we've got just a couple of more topics left, but let's see, what time are we going to? So just a few minutes. I don't want to go too long here, but let's talk about housing and mental health. I kind of feel like both of those subjects kind of as it relates to this area anyway, kind of some of those things go hand in hand. Your
district is really interesting. So I'm gonna focus a lot on Fife right now because I know Edgewood has had a lot of new developments go in, and Milton is a little more sleepy. So I'm going to step away from those for just a moment and talk about Fife. What I know about Fife from talking to people who live in that area is that there's an affordable housing crisis in Fife. So what's happened is there's a lot of market rate housing that's gone in, and then people just are struggling to stay in Fife. You also have a variety of types of people who live here. And I think you have some of more of the poverty that's in District 2 is located in Fife. Now, if I'm incorrect, you can correct me if you want to, but I've talked to a lot of people on the phone. And the fact that they're telling me that they're getting priced out of Fife is just shocking to me. I never would have thought that, but I think what happens is you put in the new housing and there just isn't enough old housing stock to make that affordable housing. And we haven't done a great job of trying to locate affordable housing in certain parts of our district. If we're only counting on the private developers to do that work, it's not going to happen. Because if the market's really good, why am I going to take 8 or 9% of a kick, of profit when I can do better than that if I make it all market rate? To do the type of projects that we need to bring that affordable housing in, we're going to have to do more of a public-private model, but probably more of a public model where there's public funding that comes into that. And that's something that the county is able to do, is get those dollars for housing. And there's several choices. There's the 1406 funds that passed Senate House Bill 1406 that are available that we have not taken advantage of yet. And that's one source of funding that we could use to create affordable housing. And there's also funding from several other federal government programs that the Housing Authority, the city of Tacoma, receives. And I think you're within the 3-mile radius that we could actually have something like that built in Fife. The other thing that we're looking at is the stock of available vacant land that's owned by the county. And there might be a possibility of that if there was a part of Fife that wasn't in the county and it was county-owned land. We could use that with the Housing Authority to build a project. I'm not sure what's going on as far as projects for affordable housing, but I know that you are missing affordable housing. It's that middle housing model that's not there. And so it's unfortunate because Fife is a great place to live. People like to live there because it's easy to get to King County if you have a job there. And that's what I hear from people who live in Fife, is that they like the convenience, but they also like the rural feel. So.
Yeah. Well, and there is some apartments here, but yeah, there's a housing shortage
It's all over our county, but I think like in County District 2, it's prevalent. It's much larger. Yeah. You wanted to talk about mental health. Can I just move you into mental health? Is that okay?
Yes, I was just going to do that because a lot of the homeless issues that we have here, especially in Fife. I see them right here in front of my chamber office, and along 99, there's a significant amount of homeless people, and that and mental health are issues that are important, especially to the businesses in this area. It affects their business. So anyway, what are some of your thoughts on mental health? And
well, I want to say that I understand the struggle of business, where you've tried to remove somebody through trespassing and they won't get out of your property. These are people so first off, we have to understand that they are humans, and everyone deserves a place to live. Some people tell you they don't want a place to live, but that's because they've been homeless for so long and without services that they've learned to survive. So they're in survival mode. 90% of the people that we help get housing, I am on the board of Associated Ministries. I'm going to give them a plug. It's a great organization. They're one of the coordinated entry points for homelessness. And they receive that money through Pierce County. They have done a fabulous job in trying to get people into rapid rehousing. So we know it's a housing first model where you try to get people into housing as soon as you can, because we know that the longer people stay homeless, that means that those bonds that they have suddenly disappear, and we know people need a network, and that's what helps people get out of homelessness. Number one reason that people get into homelessness, though, is affordable housing. They can't afford the housing they're living in. And in there is mental health issues. And so I want to talk about the 10% that you're talking about, which are the people that you're seeing on the streets and in businesses in your district, which it's also not just in your city, it's in my city, it's all over our county. And they did the one night count, and it came up that we had 14% more. And I've been told by social service providers that they believe it's higher than that. There's no way that you can find all the people who are homeless one night. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a crisis. And it's time that we take the vote on the 1% for behavioral mental health. I've talked to people in the district, they support this. People know that if the money is going to go to help with addiction and mental health, they support it. They also now see that it's not just the people on the streets who are suffering mental health, it's their family members that's suffering right now. What the pandemic has done is it's taken a crisis and it's exacerbated it. It's shown us that more people are suffering than we realize. And we just, as a community, we have to decide what type of people do we want to be. I think we want to be helpful and we want to care about those who are here. And it's good for business. The more that we do to help people and to help people get to where they need to, which is permanent housing, that helps business be able to do what they do, which is serve the community in other ways. They don't need to be having to clean up after someone has left, literally junk in their property. I think that the model that we provide people housing is what we need to do, and we can help people get healthy so they can be ready for that housing.
Right. Yeah, and I think that the business is an important enough subject for them that they would be willing to pitch in and help however they can as well.
Yeah, and I think that if it came from the county, that would be a better place. I don't think it's business's job to have to help each person who comes asking for a handout. My mom used to say, she worked for Department of Social Health Services, that the people that we see are asking for a handout, there are a lot of organizations doing a lot of good work. We need to steer them to those organizations. And I think our county council can help our whole community by passing a 0.1% for behavioral mental health. And it's time. We tried to take this vote in February, and they tried to take this vote when Joyce McDonald was my representative on the county council. And we've had 12 years I've lived in this district where we have not taken a vote on behavioral mental health. And it's time that we do the right thing to help with an issue that is not going away today or tomorrow.
Right. Well, we could go on about this for a long time, but let's go into some of your final thoughts. Is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like to talk about?
And yeah, we didn't really talk about the systemic racism that is in our community, and I want to talk about housing. And really, many of the people that we see are homeless are Black and Indigenous people of color. And I think we need to talk about this issue, and we as a county need to do something about this issue. And that's why I'm supporting an Office of Race and Equity. I am on the Human Rights Commission for the City of Tacoma, and I have been working on the Housing and Equity Task Force with the Planning Commission for the City of Tacoma, sort of looking at our zoning map, figuring out how we add racial equity to that. But the Office of Equity for the county could be set up so that we then make sure that our hiring practices include that racial lens, as well as all of our commissions. And if we're a good example, we could take that, like they do in the city of Tacoma, we could take it as a teaching tool to businesses in the community to teach them how they might look at that as they're doing hiring and how their offices work. I think it's a good thing for us to be thinking about. I don't believe that it's time to step away from this issue. I've heard people say that just today that there's no racial equity issue. But I think it's there, and it's in all parts of our community. And I want to be that kind of person who's in front, again, on this issue and making good choices that will help us be able to represent and provide for everyone in our community, not just the people who know how to get to the front of the line.
Well, it sounds like you already are in front of this issue. So good job.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for your time, Laura, and for reaching out and providing this opportunity for a first-time candidate to come and talk to people who live in what I consider part of my community. So, I mean, really, it's just definitely part of where I live, because I am over there all the time. And we're broken up by I-5, but we could just be the same area. So thank you so much for this. I appreciate it.
You bet. And, it's such an important thing that people learn who the candidates are, who's on the ballot. They see names, but they don't always know who the people are. So I think it's great that we get to know you. So,
Well, thank you so much for this time. And if you want to find out more about me, I have a website, sarahrumbaughh.com. Please feel free to go there. My phone number's on there. You can give me a call, and you can also send me an email, and I'd love to get back to you.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, and hope that you will share this video, and everyone who sees it, so we'll share it also, and more people who see it, they will get to know you, and that's a good thing. So, thanks again.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.